Definitely. And hello, Scott. Scott, you went into the Q&A. That's fine, but that will be for our questions later. But if you can go to chat and say hi, but hello. And then there's Lynn, and but a lot more people are coming on board. So it's 8:02. Let's get started. So we have a lot of people on. So let's do this.
Okay, so I want to welcome everybody. My name is Argentina. For all of you who don't know me, I am the founder of Art to Seduction Boudoir Photography in Chicago and Austin, Texas. And today, so basically what I do is I help women elevate their self-esteem and their confidence through photography. And I have photographed over 3,000 women since, oh my God, I lost count, but it's, I think, 2007. And it's been such a rewarding, last decade of my life. Now I'm in a point in which I want to increase the value that I give the women that come to me, whether they become my clients or not, but definitely my followers. So I'm starting a series of interviews and webinars with experts. And today we're doing a webinar to discover how to move from self-sabotage to success with the 90-second solution from Dr. Philip Agrios. So let me introduce Dr. Agrios. He is a best-selling author and speaker and an international personal and business consultant. He has a book. The name of the book is Life's One Law, Nature's 6-Step Blueprint for Repeatable Success. In his book, he discusses the connection between our potential for success and the ways we sabotage we sabotage in business and in life. We all do. I certainly do that. So Dr. Agrios used to be a chiropractor and a functional medicine practitioner who specialized in thyroid and autoimmune disease with a very high success rates. His expertise is needed now that there is a lot of population that is being affected with the coronavirus. We're not only going to talk about increasing your confidence, breaking the cycle of sabotage, healthy love and healthy relationships, being successful in your career and business. But we're also going to talk about the fear that has gripped not only the nation, but the world, and what you can do now and prepare with the next crisis happens, which for sure it will. This is not the last time. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Philip Agrios.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you for that nice introduction. Thank you so much. So, yeah, I know there's a lot of fear. Now, what's interesting, as many of you may not know, is we had this plan a month ago before the coronavirus. And while we were getting prepared for this and this hit, and we saw the major fear of what was happening with people, I hope you're stocked up on your toilet paper and everything else. I was just blown away when I walked in my store. I was like, really? But I fully understood, because I deal with a lot of fear with people. And so we switched a little bit as well from dealing with the self-confidence and relationships into kind of also dealing with your immune system, because I just had a client who was so stressed out, actually a few of them with autoimmune and other diseases, that they actually got sick. And I said to them, I said, do you understand your fear of you getting this caused you to actually lower your immune system? Therefore, you got sick. Now you're more vulnerable to the coronavirus. Congratulations, self-prophecy. And people don't really realize that. I want to go over some things with that as well, but you have to really got to realize it's just not what you eat or drink. It's also what you're thinking and feeling that causes your body to kick in cortisol and so many other damaging hormones. So, so let's, any particular questions you want to go into, or, and we're also going to do is we're going to have a Q&A at the end. So don't worry, but once we get done with this, we're going to go right into the Q&A and help you answer any of your questions. We're here as long as you want us to be.
Yeah, and I also want everybody let you know that it's very, very exciting what you're going to hear from Dr. Agrios today. And if you find yourself that you want to work with him, at the end he's going to tell you all about how you can work with him. So go ahead, tell us all about sabotaging ourselves.
Okay, so about 30 years ago, I realized that when I was in my practice, I used to be a chiropractor and a functional medicine practitioner. About 5 years ago or more, I stopped practicing and focusing more on businesses, international. I'm an international personal and business consultant. And all back then, I was realizing I was always in the same position year after year and not realizing what was going on. So I was really wanted to know why this was happening. And I was even listening to all the gurus back then, but I was always going back to the same kind of behavior. And it was really frustrating. So during that time, I had gone through some major crises over those few years. I had financial ruin. I went through a very severe divorce. I had became disabled. I was not able to practice for 4.5 years. I lost my practice. It took me 4.5 years to get back onto that because I was going through some major stress back then. And during that time when I was not practicing, my father had died of brain cancer very suddenly. And my daughter almost committed suicide and so many things. I won't go into it. But because of that situation, I was able to discover this particular inborn sabotaging trait that we have. So that's what we have. Oops. And that's called the inborn sabotaging trait. And the inborn sabotaging trait, what I discovered was that it doesn't undermine you. What it really does, it's there to protect you from the very success that you seek, because that success is subconsciously more painful than what you're doing. And there are 3 reasons why success really isn't attainable with people, because of 3 reasons. So the first reason is because if they actually became successful and they lost that success before, to go back and get that success again and lose it again is more painful than even trying it. So I had a gentleman one time, he had a $10 million idea and he shelved it. And I said, why would you shelve it? And he goes, I did all this and I tried all these different things. I talked with people and we just decided we're going to shelve it. So I asked him, I said, excuse me. I said, well, when did you lose your first million? He goes, how did you know that? I said, well, if I had a $10 million idea, I wouldn't shelve it. He goes, well, what happened was he lost $1 million and he was on the couch of his sister for over 5 months. And it was so painful, he would never do that again. So he got himself back going and got his business going. And I said again, I said, well, when did you lose your second million? He goes, how'd you know that? I said, same reason. And what happened was he had made an investment, he lost it, and that's where he was. And I said, do you understand if you actually made $10 million, you'd have 10 to 20 times more pain if you reached this. And it was just that silence. And guess what he was doing? He started working on his $10 million idea. And he didn't realize that it was because of the past pain that if he actually reached it, it would be more painful at that end of it. The second part is what you're doing right now. Every one of you have a fantastic opportunity to get the book you want to write, get the online course that you just did, Argentina, that you just talked about. Trying different recipes that you always wanted, because you're always saying, oh, I'm always cooking the same old recipes and the old food. I don't exercise. You have so much opportunity to do this, but we rather binge watch Netflix because it's easier than actually doing the hard work to get to where you're successful. And a lot of people don't realize successful people have gone through a lot to get to where they've been. And they think it's just, automatic, and it's not. And when they start to try it and it's hard, then they actually stop themselves from doing it. And the third reason is, especially with business owners, is that if they actually doubled their business, they would be even twice overwhelmed. They'll never see their family because now they're really behind on the ball. They can't really keep up with demand because they don't have systems in place. Same thing with relationships. If you've been in a relationship before And now things are going well, you may subconsciously feel that you actually are sabotaging that relationship, because if I get too close, I'll get hurt again. So those are the main three reasons. And your sabotaging trait is actually there to protect you in order for you not to be in pain. So during that time when I found this, I was sitting on my living room floor and I looked to my left, which was my past, and I went, oh my God, this one trait has caused all of my problems. I was like, it can't be this simple. And I started working on the antidote, and I found, and I call it the antidote because I didn't want something to work 70%. I wanted something that worked 100% of the time, because if you get bitten by a snake, do you want a remedy that kind of works? You want the remedy that works, right? So when I found the antidote, which was the exact opposite to the sabotaging trait, I said, it can't be this simple. And I went out to try to disprove it. And over thousands of people from all walks of life and ages, I could not disprove it. And that's why it works 100% of the time. So that's a basis of what we found, because that's that inborn sabotaging trait that's actually protecting you, not trying to hurt you.
Okay, so big question. How do we identify our sabotaging trait, and how do we find the antidote?
So what we can do, because we have so much information, we can do a couple things. It'll be up to you. I can kind of give people a little bit of taste of it, or they can actually go onto my website later on at the end of the webinar, and they can actually take my quiz. I have a 9-question quiz that they can take, and then from there, they'll get their antidote. They'll get their sabotaging trait for free, and then they'll get their antidote as well. And then they can start seeing how that particular trait has caused them the difficulties as well as the protection that they thought. So either way, I don't care what you want to do in that end of it, because I know we have a lot of other information we want to talk about, but it's up to you.
Go ahead,
Okay. So basically there are actually 3 sabotaging traits that, that I discovered. Out of 7+ billion people on the earth, there's only 3. And in my book, I go over that and how I discovered it. And there's a blueprint that I discovered that was able to really get down deep and find this. But they're called the director, the supplier, and the communicator. And basically what the director is, and I can do is, you know what, I do have a slide I can put up real quick. Okay, can you see that? So I call it the director saboteur. This is a person that can be, most of the time when they're under major stress, that are unfocused, they're scattered, they're disorganized, they don't really follow through. They have about 15 different projects that they don't really, that's all scattered all about. They get like 99% close and they don't finish it and they go something else. And they're people that like to wing things. They don't like to be told what to do. And they really don't at times take responsibility or accountability. And then on the other end, sometimes they get too much responsibility. They take on too much and they're so focused. But what happens is that they forget about everything else. So, they can have their spouse and go, hey, I'll be out in 5 minutes. And 3 hours later, they emerge because they're so focused on this one thing, or a couple of days, and now they're really behind, and now they get more scattered and unfocused, and this hamster wheel starts to kick in. So that's what's called a director saboteur. The other one is called the supplier saboteur. Now, supplier saboteurs are people that have a hard time saying no. They always overly give to people. They're overly patient and they're overly tolerant. So people take advantage of them because of their good nature. And they really feel that they don't want to be selfish. So what they do is they give too much of themselves and then they feel really bad about that. And when they really realize someone took advantage of them, they'll go to the other side and say, forget about this. I'm not giving anymore. I'm not going to be patient anymore. I'm intolerant. And then sometimes they feel guilty and then they go back overly giving, and they can go back and forth just like the director does. But mainly they're a very overly giving type of person. And then the communicator is a person who doesn't really express well. They're kind of quiet. They don't really engage. They are a good listener. They're very loyal. But you make them mad, it takes a long time to get back in their graces. And what happens with those is they don't really express themselves. And by not expressing themselves, they people don't know what they're thinking or feeling. And because of that, they get upset with the people, especially maybe their spouse, that should know what they're thinking or feeling. They don't, because they go in and they may disconnect from people and not at all. And then sometimes they may go the other end and, you know, scream a little bit and give their opinion, and then shut down immediately, and you may not hear from them. They might discuss anything for 2 days because they take a couple of days to process things. And a lot of times that can create a problem in a relationship. Okay, so
you mind doing a screen sharing instead of, because it looks like some people can actually see the.
Didn't I screen? Oh, I didn't screen share that.
Yeah.
I am so sorry. I thought I screen shared that. Okay, let me get out of that.
The screen behind you, but I think it's going to be better.
You know what? Okay, my apologies, everybody. So this is what here. Can you see it?
No, yet.
Okay, let me go here. There it is.
There it is.
I was wondering why. You know what? I apologize. I use Zoom all the time with my clients, and I do it all around the world. And wow, that's interesting. I apologize, everybody. So this is the director saboteur. So this is where they can become unfocused, they can scatter, disorganized, and not follow through. So that's the director saboteur. The supplier saboteur can be very sensitive, overly giving, overly patient, and overly tolerant, and just can't say no, because they rather not hurt someone's feelings and rather hurt themselves. And they reject themselves in so many other ways, and they don't value themselves as much. And that's where they create a problem. And then the communicator saboteur is not expressive, they're quiet, they don't engage that much, they're non-confrontational. So that's what those saboteurs are, okay? Again, my apologies. So those are the three of it. Now, we all have all three within ourselves, but there's just that one sabotaging trait that really comes out that allows us to really protect ourselves. And those of you who probably understand some of that go, yeah, I can definitely see myself in one of them. Now, there is a small percentage of people that will go, you know, I used to do that. I don't do that anymore, because they went through a lot of therapy. They've been through coaching. They've been to a lot of training. But if you're saying, I used to be that, that's still there, even maybe 5% of your life that's not going well. We're not talking about the 80% of that's going well. We're talking about that 20% or 5%. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So by us really looking at what our sabotaging trait is and what we do to protect ourselves, that's what happens. Now, there's also sometimes a small percentage of people that will go, you know, I see myself, I do both of them, or I see all three of them. Those where, again, we can't really go too deep as far as I can with this on a webinar, but when I have them as clients, everybody always sees their sabotaging trait. And no matter whether or not it's a month or 2 or 3 months or 6 months I'm working with them, when they have a situation, it always comes down to their sabotaging trait, and it's really cool. So now we have a sabotaging trait, right? Now what do? Now, by using the antidote, which is the exact opposite to the sabotaging trait, what happens is this is called the director antidote. And that's to acknowledge. So those of you who are scattered all over the place, when you use the acknowledgement, then you don't become unfocused. When you become aware and you actually follow through and you trust yourself and you have enough faith in your trust that, you know, I wrote this book, or I did this, but I really don't want to finish it because I want to get a little bit more perfect. Or you might have found a nice suit or a dress that you love, but you're still going, I got to ask somebody. Right? But by acknowledging yourself and trusting yourself that you are, you know, if you like it, it doesn't matter, just do it. So by acknowledging yourself as well as other people, your partner, whether or not it's your children, your boss, your employees, by acknowledging, you are able to become more focused. So becoming, instead of being unfocused to too much focus, the antidote allows you to become imbalanced so that you can become a little bit more organized, you can follow through, and you feel more in control. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. So the antidote for the supplier is about value. Remember, everybody's in the supplier is always about overly giving, overly sensitive, because they do that because of an insecurity within themselves that what they have isn't that valuable. So they have to overly give it. So if you are a salesperson or a business owner as well, you can actually overly give too much of your service or product. And you ever had that situation, people go, oh, wait, thank you very much. What you did, you gave them the answers. You gave so much. Now they're going, you know, the other person that I work with does the same thing, so I don't really need you, and I go to someplace else. But by knowing that I have enough value, but I'm not going to allow you to take advantage of me, and by increasing your value within yourself, then there's no longer that you're overly patient and not being impatient. You're finding that balance in between by valuing yourself, okay? And also even with relationships, if you're with a partner or you're dating people that you're that type of person with as a supplier, you're gonna overvalue and overly give to that relationship. So they can actually cause you to maybe abuse you mentally, physically, or whatever. But it's not just the suppliers, because you know other saboteurs can do that. But mainly the suppliers are really giving person. And I always tell them, you should tell people that, and it's Al Capone's saying, is that don't mistake my kindness for weakness. Right? Mm-hmm. So by you really valuing yourself, you don't have to feel that you have to be overly giving, that you're not really selfish, you're really self-nourishing. See, what happens is with that, people don't realize in the forest, the largest trees take the most sunshine and rain. Why? Are they selfish? No, they're taking it because there's a massive root system within the forest that they actually feed the other trees. In order for there's an ecological balance that happens within the forest. When you overly give, you create an imbalance within your own life. But when you find the way to value you as well as the other people and find that balance, then things start to shift for you. And then you don't have to really keep on attracting those same people in your life. By you actually using your antidote, whether or not you're a director, supplier, communicator, and what's really cool is that you don't attract those same type of people, because they're really there to show you a part of you that you're not really dealing with. And we can talk about that a little bit later as well. Mm-hmm. And then the communicator antidote is about expressing yourself, which is really hard about this. And this is people that are not expressive. So when you actually are expressive and actually take action, you will then find that balance. So I'm a director saboteur. If you ever told me years ago that I would be actually helping people organize and put systems in place in a business and be very successful at it, I think you're out of your mind. But because I found the antidote, I'm able to do that. My fiance, who is a communicator saboteur, when she was she worked for corporate, she wasn't really getting promoted because she wasn't expressing how intelligent she was. And as soon as I was helping her to understand what she was doing, as she expressed herself more, they realized how intelligent she was, and she was able to get promoted, also leave a couple of other different jobs because they were promoting her, and she would never move out of another nice, safe corporate position, but she did. And now she is in a very high position because she was able to use her antidote and express herself. And I see this hundreds of times with clients and when I used to work with patients way back when. Okay, so that's what's happening in that aspect of the sabotaging trait and the antidote. Does that make sense? And then when you take the actual quiz and you find this out to reinforce it, I actually give you a little bit more in depth about it, and then you get emailed your antidote, and then you can really see more about it and ask questions if you need be.
Fantastic. And can you use this with people near you? Because sometimes, you find yourself and you work on yourself, but you find a lot of people around you. You can't control people, and you get so frustrated. And so how can you actually use this with others?
Oh, wait for this. This is really cool. So what I found was that your sabotaging trait gives me the ability to judge you. So let's say you are a communicator saboteur, you don't really talk. And what I didn't express, there are actually two other traits that create actually a personality stress sequence. There's a dominant trait, a mediator trait, and then your sabotaging trait. So if your dominant trait is your communicator, and you like to talk, and there are people that overly talk and they interrupt you and all that, or they have no problem expressing themselves, they will go to you and go, what's wrong with you? Just open your mouth. Just talk to me, right? But you can't because of the sabotage, so they're going to judge you. So if you're a director saboteur and you're like scattered and all over the place, and I'm a really good director and I'm very organized, I'm going to go write a list. What's wrong with you, right? And then from there, if you are a supplier saboteur and you are overly giving and I'm a supplier dominant and I go to you, what's wrong with you? Just say no. These people are taking advantage of you. So I can judge you on that way. However, you can judge me on basically of my own sabotaging trait. So what I do in my workshops, as well as working with my, my clients, basically we actually show them and how to determine what the other person is. And by them understanding what that other person is and knowing their antidote, they can now neutralize the situation. For instance, I had a patient way back when I first started utilizing this. And she had an autoimmune disease and she was doing very well. But when she went home, she used to bicker with her husband. So she would have flare-ups, okay? So I told her, you got to bring him in. So she brought him in. So now he understood his sabotaging trait and antidote. He understood hers. And now she understood his. Great. Now what happens? Well, they're going to go back and go the old patterns. However, I had them come up with a word. And they came up with the word coconuts. And coconut meant is when he was scattered and all over the place, and he was being very, not too servicing of her, right? Because he may be very angry. She would then say coconuts. And sometimes they would laugh because, okay, and coconut meant, hey, honey, you're scattered, you're all over the place. How about kind of acknowledging that, following through? I'll be happy to help you organize, just through one word, and it would neutralize it immediately. However, there would be times when he didn't want to do that. So what would happen is that she would now use her antidote of valuing herself and go, I'm not doing this. When you calm down, come and get me. And she would detach herself. And then what happens, she would now disarm him. Because if you start arguing with somebody, you actually give them ammunition to fire back. I call it the Italian way. I'm half done. Who can scream higher? That was my my family way back when. But when you then take your own antidote and you use it, I see tremendous change immediately and neutralization of any stress. Because you got to realize there's only two things that you do. You grow or you protect. Okay? So if you're protecting, when you are arguing with somebody, your spouse who you love, when you argue, you're actually protecting yourself from them. But when you actually use the antidote, it shifts. I've seen clients change their relationship with their children. I had a manager one time took my workshop, and he came up to me, and his son was always playing video games upstairs. And he says, we just can't get him down to do family time. So I asked him a few questions. We ascertained his son's sabotaging trait. I gave him a more in-depth understanding of his son's antidote. Within less than a week, his son was downstairs with the family more than he ever was. And then within 2 months, because the manager knew his own sabotaging trait and antidote, their relationship skyrocketed. He could not believe it. So that can happen with your boss, your coworkers, anybody, because everybody is an entity. And those for you who are business owners, you actually have a sabotaging trait and antidote for the business because it's an entity. And what happens is you and your employees are actually subconsciously sabotaging the business through your own sabotaging trait. And by using the antidote to the antidote of the business, it's like a valve of success that just opens up. It's really cool. And we do that with the workshops or if one-on-one with my clients. So that's where this understanding can really help with relationships, realizing I'm bringing somebody back into my life that is really going to be the same person that was before. So let's say you have a spouse who was very rigid and, you know, very serious. Then you divorce them. Now you're dating a comedian. Now you think they're the opposite. And I find a lot of times they're not. Their actions are different, but their fear of you is the same. And they're coming in to help show you a part of you that you're not really dealing with. Make sense?
Yeah. Okay.
So what happens is by you actually focusing on you, you now control only you, because you cannot control them, but by you changing your vibration and your actions, two things happen. They leave because they don't want to change with you, or they change because they want to stay in your life. When I was going through with autoimmune patients and they were getting off drinking and all that, they would lose friends because those friends didn't want to stop drinking and want to use them as partiers. So they would leave, but then they would bring other new friends in that would then reinforce what they're doing. And then some of their real true friends would stay and not go out drinking and do something different with them, all based on themselves. And the same thing with even, I've seen that with daughter-in-laws. When their mother-in-laws weren't really treating them nicely, when they changed them and not even talking to their mother-in-laws, they would actually see a shift in their mother-in-laws, how they dealt with them. Because now on a subconscious level, they are now learning. They're actually saying thank you. I would tell my clients to say thank you in your mind to your enemy, whether or not it's your mother-in-law or whoever. Thank you so much for coming into my life to show me a part of me that I'm not really dealing with. And when you focus on you, that inner part, because the outside world is what you've created in your own little, in your own little world. If you don't like what you see on the outside world, then you have to change you. And by you changing you, you change that outside world. And I see this every day with my clients, and I've seen it with myself. So those of you who may not really believe that, think that's a lot of garbage, I fully understand that. Try it, see how it's working, because right now, maybe what you're doing really isn't working well for you, but try that. But by you changing you and not allowing someone to get to you, you'll see a shift, or they'll leave.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty insightful, but you're right. It's a lot of, you gotta start with yourself. You know, for years, I kept looking for things outside of me, and obviously, you know, it's a disaster. And what I noticed is one of the things that it was really hard for me to do is after my third divorce, I had to really have a serious talk with myself, and I had to be very honest and realize that the thing that all those men had in common was me.
Yeah, amazing. And what's really cool, and I say it's cool, because well, that was a hard time in my life. And I go, yeah, but if you say this is really cool, you actually depersonalize it. You don't now take it your own. When I got into my divorce, you know, people would say certain things about my ex and all that. And because I was angry, I would chime in until one day I said, you know what? If it wasn't her, it would have been somebody else that I needed with the same experiences, because that's what I needed. And that's why I was with her, and why she was with me as well. Even though, you know, that's the other person may not think that way. But if you look at that person and go, thank you for all that horrific stuff we went through, because I'm a different person now. And by you actually being grateful for it, you don't no longer need to forgive that aspect of it. But a lot of times that's really hard for people. And sometimes I forget, because I've been doing this for so many years, that even what's going on with the coronavirus and everything else, I'm not stressing out. I'm just mainly just staying as equal, you know, as calm as possible, because I know that if I do, new opportunities will come to me. Because you got to realize this: when a problem starts, the solution starts immediately, because we live in a dichotomous world: left, right, up, down, in and out, right? Yin yang. So if the problem's there, the solution has to be there. And when you focus on the problem, all you're going to do is be encased with that problem and sometimes never see the solution. But if you walk into the solution, then you'll find it. I cannot tell you, when I was going through all those things, how many times, and maybe you want to write this phrase down, you guys, I talk about this in my book, is that I wonder what gift I'm getting, right? Or I wonder, I cannot wait to see what gift I'm getting. I said, it's coming already. And I used to say that sometimes 1,000 times a day, because that's what happens when you talk yourself into the solution instead of talking yourself out of it. And by really focusing on a consistent basis, you got to be clear of it. You got to feel it as well. It's just not about thoughts. You know, we hear people, well, it starts with your thoughts. Yes, but if you can be very clear on something, but if you don't feel it and you're not passionate about it, it's not going to happen. Those two have to come together and marry in order for something to manifest. So what people are doing right now, and write this down because this is really going to help a lot of people. It's possibility versus probability. And what happens is that, let's say I was in 9/11, okay, and I just got out, let's say. And now 10 years later, I'm in a high rise and I see in a distance a plane miles away, but going perpendicular to me. And I go, oh my God, please don't hit the building. Please don't let it hit the building. I'm getting all stressed out about it, right? Now, is it possible that plane can hit the building? Yes. Is it probable? No. Very unlikely. So what's happening is, and the reason why people are so feared, because they're going on possibility instead of probability. You gotta realize, first of all, get off the news, stop looking at it. I just look and I scroll and I look something and I just look at it and go, there's nothing I can do about this. And I just don't get involved into it unless I can do something about it, right? But you have to look at it. What is the probability of you getting the coronavirus? Okay, well, we're finding it to be 1.3% because of the people that are actually, well, not even getting it, but dying from it. That'd be the worst thing for it. To me, death is not the worst thing. That's the easy way out. I mean, there's many other worse things that can happen, suffering and all that stuff. But and stress is really not the silent killer only. It's also the silent torturer. Yeah.
Uncertainty.
Yeah, definitely. And you're just torturing yourself. So whatever you're going through right now, am I going to lose my job? Or I lost my job? I'm going to say something here that's going to be a little bit outside. Is when my brother, he lost his job a few years ago, and they also rent out a house, and they lost their tenant at the same time. And when he told me that, I said, congratulations. Now, before he almost hit me, he looked at me, why would you say that? I said, well, obviously you were very unhappy at that job. There were thousands of people, and there are books written on this, that when people really look at the opportunity instead of the detriment, they find a better job. And when I worked with him and I helped him see that, it was really cool. Within 2 weeks, he got a better job and he got a new tenant, because he stayed focused on what he was doing instead of being upset and very he could have the opportunity of being hateful and everything else. So whatever you're going through right now, you have the full opportunity to say, is this a detriment or is this a benefit? They're the same. It's what side of the coin you want to look at. It's neutral. Everything is neutral until you put your own thought process and your perception on it, right? How many times when you thought something was bad happening, later on it was good, and something that you thought was good was bad. So you try to do your best to stay in that more neutral zone and then see what happens, whether you believe in God or the universe or your higher conscious or nothing, but see how things start to manifest. So right now, I was just talking to a client who is a mother of two. She's freaking out. And she said, I can't get sick because who's going to take care of the children? And I said, can you see what's going on? And then she joked, she goes, I hate talking to you because you're right. And I started laughing and I said, well, as long as I was able to help you. But just look at this as a temporary inconvenience.
Right.
It's a temporary inconvenience. It's not a virus that now people get and they're dead. That movie, I forget the name of the movie. All right, it's something that's inconvenience. I saw on Facebook today, it said, your grandparents were asked to go to war. You're asked to sit on the couch. You can do this.
Yeah.
You can get through this. You can do this. I laughed so hard. And it's really, really true. We're not fighting the virus. We're actually hiding from the virus, and we're starving it, right? So that's exactly what we're doing. We're not really getting in harm's way because now we're getting out. But does that all help? I hope that's helping everybody.
I want to move on to questions. So everybody start typing your questions, and then we'll try, Dr. Phil will try to answer as many as he can. So I'll start with the first one while everybody writes their questions. How can you use this to find a life partner after, and I'm going to put myself, as an example. I had, 3 failed marriages, a couple of other failed relationships, or I wouldn't say fail. I learned a lot, but obviously they were not life-lasting with the type of relationship that I realized that I want. I finally realized, if it is not this, I'm not settling anymore. And it's not just me, it's a lot of my clients that we are in our 50s. And when we go out there and date, we're not liking what we see. I really haven't been dating, for a while. So eventually I will. But a lot of my clients are, and they tell me that men in their 50s, is very frustrating. They don't want to commit. They want to take advantage of them. They're slobs. They're not caring. They just want to tag along a successful woman. And my clients, pretty much everybody has something going on. They're independent. Their kids are gone. They take care of their bodies. They invest in themselves, and they have dreams. They travel, and then I see them with a freaking drummer that doesn't even, is asking for a ride from her. I mean, why? What's going on there? How can we use these skills to better our life in that respect? So
what I'm about to say is going to maybe, some people may get upset about it. Some people agree with it. So I'm just going to say it, okay? Because this is, no, but this is based on my experience for, doing this for over, 2 to 3 decades and helping people and viewing this, is that, number one, those people is the part of you that you're not dealing with, okay? Mm-hmm. In one of the courses that I created about 4 months ago, I actually go through a process and where you can see how that person is really you, okay? So if you have a person that is not successful, that is really draining you, 2 things are happening. You don't feel you're successful. You don't feel value, so you need that person in your life to reinforce what you're feeling. Mm-hmm. Or you're not valuing other people. And I've seen that. I have a client who is a very successful business owner who's a supplier saboteur. Now, you don't have to be a supplier saboteur for the situation. You can be also a director and a communicator, but he was a supplier saboteur. And he was very giving in one aspect in his business, but in his personal life, he wasn't. He was not that nice. And what people don't realize, your business or your career and your personal life are really the same, right? And when you use your sabotaging trait, you affect both. And when you use your antidote, you affect both at the exact same time. So what happens is that when he realized that because he felt that he could be mean at his family right? Because he was overly giving and being taken advantage of his customers and clients and things like that, because he was trying to get money, and that's how he was able to be successful. But once he realized that, and he shifted and he started to value his personal life and the people around him, and he started to value himself as his business owner and stop overly giving, the balance started to shift tremendously. He actually made more money in his business because he was losing so much because he was giving too much away. And his personal relationship improved dramatically. One of the things that I do when I work with people one-on-one, I actually work with their spouse too. And they can see the relationship with them. And now they can see that person's actually changing, and then they can understand there. And then we do the coconuts thing, right? We just talked about. But once we see this, and you see that balance, what happened was it no longer brought those people in that were taking advantage of him. And one time, I always ask you business owners, if you treat your family, if you treat your clients the way you treat your family, would you have any clients? And the answer is no. Why? Why would you do that? And the reason is because the consequence of losing money or that client, but with your family, you can abuse them and scream at them and hit them and do whatever you want because they're not leaving, unless someone says, I'm leaving, or gets divorced, and then there's a shift. So I tell people, treat your family like a client. And when clients really who have this situation really do this, it's a major shift. Their family looks at them like, what's wrong with you? You know, where's where's that person? But as they started saying, I'm starting to understand this. So with yourself, when you said you had 3 failed marriages, I kind of chuckled with myself, because I would say you're very successful at divorce, right? Because, right? Yeah. You can be, you know, if you, I failed at losing weight. And I go, no, you're very successful as a diabetic, gaining weight and stressful human being. Fantastic. Now, you are a fantastic, strong manifester. Now, we can just do the opposite to that. You'll have the opposite result. So at that moment in time, if you really look at that and see those people, they actually gradually allowed you to shift differently. And I use the word differently, not better, not because better, that means I wasn't enough. I got to work harder, which means I was lazy. I got to work smarter, which means I was stupid. No, I just have to work differently, because if I have to do the other 3, I have to go up a hill. And if I stop, if I'm on a bike, what happens? I go back. But if I just say I need to do something differently, then there's no real stress on making a right or a left. So with yourself, by you actually seeing that we can do this, is that you actually, those 3 people were really all you.
Yeah.
And then what happens is this is really, and again, this is really cool, because it helps neutralizes it when you say this is really cool. Not that I'm not trying to diminish your pain or anything like that, but when you decide that I don't want this any longer, your brain is so used to bringing that in that it's actually uncomfortable bringing anybody in that's nice to you. Let's say those 3 were very abusive. I have no idea, but let's say they're abusive. But now you're bringing something nice. Your brain's going, something's wrong. We're used to being demeaned. But as you go, you know what? Thank you for the opportunity to give me another opportunity to have someone who demeans me, but you no longer work me, but you no longer serve me. This serves me. And then your brain's going, well, that's kind of weird. And if you believe in higher power, they're going to say, well, that's a fluke. Let's give another opportunity. So you get another person who's kind of maybe not as so demeaning, but there's, you know, those red flags that go out, and you go, thank you so much, because you always acknowledge, thank you for that opportunity to go back to the old me, but you no longer serve me. And what happens now, the brain's going, well, wow, you're really serious about this. And then you start attracting people that are starting to be nice to you, because now you say, I deserve this. So let's go with a supplier. I deserve this. Or as a director saboteur, you may go, I don't need all that chaos in my life because my brain's going all over the place. Whereas a communicator, wow, I can express myself and not feel judged by this person. So depending on the saboteur will depend on what you're attracting and how you react to it. Does that help?
Yeah, fascinating, fascinating. Um, so somebody sent me a private question here. And let's see, I don't have my glasses, but it says, after 30 years of marriage, my husband left me for a younger woman. And after that, I've been feeling completely old, depressed, and like I cannot go on. How can you help me?
So again, it's looking, once you can really look at this situation as not being personal, that it was their decision, that it was not really about you, it was about them. I had a client, I've had a few, but this one particular client was cheating on his wife. And when I was working with him, he no longer cheated on his wife. She never found out because, you know, just that was his decision. But their marriage just took off because he realized it wasn't her, it was really him. And I found that with the other people. It was really them, not you. Now, it's never one-sided. It's always a double way back. Okay, so we can't all blame on him, and we don't blame him. We're not going to blame anybody. We're just going to look at the situation, go, here's what's really happened, and what can we do? So in my opinion, that husband of yours came in, just like I did with my ex, in order for the experience that I needed. Because I really realized that if I didn't have that experience of divorce and all the other things that happened, there's no way in heck I'd be standing here talking to all these people or you. I would have never found anything because I found the benefit. So if you look at that situation and say, wow, this was really a benefit for me, and sometimes you can, and it takes a while, and I fully understand. I've worked with people all the time with that. But once you can really see that it was not only his decision because that was what he was doing and had nothing to do with you, but because you needed that experience, you brought it in. And once that separation occurred, you had two choices. You could celebrate that, thank God I got somebody that didn't want me, who was great, that opens me up to something else, or I can go into depression and blame me. It's always two choices. You can grow or you can protect. You can expand or you can contract. You can give or you can take. That's why we're vibrational beings, right? So by you really focusing on that allows you to really see that it really isn't, but if you can take full responsibility that you had part in that, but then not look at it as something wrong with you, but something to be unfolded of you, because I'll bet you that situation helped unfold a lot of things within you that maybe would have never come out. And then by working with somebody yourself, a therapist or a coach or whatever, and seeing the beauty that's within yourself and opening up, then you'll bring that particular person that will see that beauty, but you got to see it first. If you don't see it first, you're going to keep on attracting people to reinforce how depressed and ugly and things you are. And a lot of times in talking to psychologists, it's not really depression, it's sadness. And you got to find hopefully a therapist that can really, or a psychologist can kind of find that instead of just here's an antidepressant. But I'm really sad because a depression is a suppression of the feelings of how bad, and you constantly beating yourself up, how horrible I am, compared to what a beautiful person I am. And that it was basically you both firing at each other, you know, for instance. And again, I hope that you can kind of open your minds to this as I'm explaining this to you. When I was first in practice, I had a hard time firing people. And my consultant said to me, he says, do you know that by you not letting them go, you're actually stopping them from growing? And I never heard that before. I said, they're stopping from you from growing and your patients from growing, you're stopping from them from growing. And when I realized that by me letting them go, by taking the initiative, I allowed them to go and prosper, which allowed me to go and prosper. So even though that maybe your husband left, it was a good thing that he fired himself so that you can go and grow and be prosper.
It's a beautiful point of view and more positive and actually can get you excited. It's like a new chapter, new opportunities.
And it's always there. And I'm telling you, I see this every day. Every day. I'm not your psychologist. I tell you, I'm not your psychiatrist. I'm not your psychologist. I send people to psychologists because, you know, they're getting too deep, and you got to go there, or a marriage counselor. But I've helped save some marriages because not by being a marriage counselor, but I'm actually showing them why they dislike each other, but they're not really disliking themselves, or disliking the action of the person. Okay. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of times when, you know, you hear kids, oh, I hate my mother. And I go, no, you love your mother. You just hate what they're doing because they're really right, and you don't want to hear that, right? So same situation. I hope that helped her.
Yeah.
On that end of it.
So, Dr. Agrios, tell us how you work with people. You know, besides your book, what else you got there?
Okay. I'll do that, and then there's 3 questions in the questionnaire, but I'll do that first. So what Argentina wanted me to do was, because we added this whole Corona thing too, and people were really having a hard time, that I decided to offer 2 opportunities. And they're on 2 different scales, because as many times when I've done webinars and I was hesitant to offer something and people would sign up, they go, thank God you offer that to me because it changed my life. So from here, I'm just going to take about 5 minutes and go over what I have and the opportunity to give you, and then we're going to continue with questions for you. Awesome. Let me just go and share my screen this time. Okay. Let's see here. Okay. Okay, great. So basically, my online course is called You Got This, Retire Your Inner Critic, Transform Your Life, and a quick and easy playbook for ending self-sabotage and finally living your best life. So it's an online course, and there's videos with an actual digital workbook. You don't need a printer or to print it out. You actually can type right on the workbook. And basically what it does, it helps you to discover your inborn sabotaging trait and its antidote. Even though you can go onto the website and get yours, which is great, it's just a basic kind of an answer for you to kind of start thinking about it. But we go on kind of a deep dive into the inborn sabotaging trait and antidote. And then what I do is I actually give you 5 stress neutralizing techniques. These techniques actually can neutralize any situation. And I've had people over and over again come back to me and go, I cannot believe how easily these things work. The first one is actually, I give you actually 2 words to automatically neutralize any situation. I just had recently a client, we were in a meeting and tapped me on the shoulder, and they used the 2 words, and they say, I cannot believe how easy this is. My husband looked at me and said, who are you? Why did you freak out? And it's really great. The other is change horrific events into benefits. Now I know that's a really bold statement, but we've been talking about this. So I actually go through the process of how you can take any horrific event and turn it into a benefit. And I go through actually 3 basically very high profile celebrities who've been through some major stuff and how they turned it into a benefit and how you can do the same thing. How others you don't like are you. We talked about this. I had a client who got fired and he hated this person. And I said, you understand, by you being so hating to this person, you are actually causing you a detriment, and she's just going on doing her thing. And when we went through this process, he realized she was him. And once he worked on him, he no longer was angry at her. He actually thanked her. Of course, he didn't call her up, but actually thanked her in her brain, and his life started to shift. And then the gratitude list. Many of you do this, but I put a twist on it because when you are grateful, you never have to forgive. And that's a bold statement, but I've seen people forgive 25-year-old regrets of people. And when they let that go, they will help improve their lives. And then I actually created a specific meditation for each of the antidote. It's a 9-minute meditation. You wake up in the morning, you do this for 9 minutes, and it actually reinforces your antidote, helps you visualize what you really want, and I get a lot of great feedback with that. So normally it's $197, but because of the coronavirus and people being out of work, I'm offering it for $47. And of course, there is a 100% money back guarantee. If you don't like it, just let us know and we'll return your money back. So that's that online course. Yeah, I have other ones, but this is really a good way to really see how you can get yourself out of this particular stress. And what we'll do is, after I go with this next opportunity, I'll give you the link of where you can go and get this. So on the other extreme, people want to work with me. Now, I do one-on-one courses, but I also do group coaching. And I call this From Sabotage to Success in 8 weeks or less. And what it is that in week 1, a lot of you may think that with group coaching, some people have been on group coaching, you might have been on a group coaching. When you get on, the person doesn't really know you, right? And by you talking and whether they try to figure out. What I do is you first fill out a questionnaire, you take the quiz, I know your sabotaging trait, and then what happens is you're going to actually have a 30-minute private Zoom call with me. So now we actually sit down, I go over it in depth. So some of the views, there was a question from Scott, said that, I see myself in all 3. What does that mean? Well, it means that you have to look more deep into that a little bit more and really see that it's not really all 3 at one time. Basically, it's really one that you're doing, but probably that there's so much going on in your life, you probably are using all 3 to try to survive. But as I work with that person at that 30-minute, I now know them. I will help them. They always make a major breakthrough the first visit. And then they have another week. And then when we go into the second week to 2 and 7th week in a group call, and it's usually 60 to 90 minutes, and we have to go for longer, we go longer. If you ask a question, guess what? I know you now. I know what you're doing, and I can get to you immediately, just like I'm doing a one-on-one call. Okay? So now we have week 2 to week 7 for that. And then if you miss a call, no problem. You'll actually have a lifetime, you'll have a recording, and you can listen to it for your lifetime. It will never go away on you. And what's really cool with this is at the end of the second week, you're going to learn what that personality stress sequence is revealed. How all 3 traits we talked about, that personality stress sequence, how it all come together, allow you to really see why you created all the things in your life. It's really, really cool how it does that. So once you want to really understand your pattern, you can really now start to stopping it. And then what happens is at the end of that week, if you are not completely satisfied, I give you 100% of your money back. So midnight that night of that second week, of that day, you say, this is not for me, you get 100% of your money back. That's how guaranteed I am. Even when I work with my one-on-one clients, I actually guarantee the results. So here we do the same thing. And also, I give 10% to charity water, because charity water is they give clean water to millions of people throughout the world, and 100% of their profit goes to that. And then on week 3, you have a reactor sequence formula and your coping method. And what that does is allows you to really see that there's just one word that you usually use that creates this domino effect, and now you're stressed out. What do? Use your coping methods. What? You eat, you sleep, you drink, you eat, you pray, whatever, all on what? The last domino, not the first domino. And by using that and seeing this, you can actually make a shift immediately and really see how your coping methods reinforce your bad behaviors. And then what happens is we go into week 4, and now we teach you about the 6-step blueprint. And the 6-step blueprint can solve any business or personal problem. And we're going to be there. We're going to actually work on relationships, where you're stuck in a relationship, what to do, and how to shift it immediately. So that's what you can do in that week. And then 5, we go to even more a deep dive into the antidote to really see how that works. And then week 6, what I also discovered that there are actually 2 basic fears of each of the sabotaging traits. And once you really understand those base fears, that's when you can really start making a shift in your life. Week 7 is determined on anybody's sabotaging trait and antidote. We already talked about that earlier. And then bonus power week. The last week is that you actually sit with me for 30 minutes. We kind of create a plan one-to-one, and so you can move forward in your life. And that's what that whole 8 weeks is about, something totally different than a lot of group coaching does. So like we said, is that with that, bonuses, you get It's called Your Stress Antidote, Get Immediate Relief. It's a $997 value. This is actually the online course we go through and you work with and you start learning more about it. The You Got This, we just talked about it. It's included in this. You're going to get 2 ebooks worth $27 each. Get Organized Now Without Getting Overwhelmed. It's a book that I wrote that to me is the top 3 organizational techniques that to me are the best ever. Create everlasting relationships without compromising your wants and desires. You get unlimited texting and email. Now this is priceless because you actually can text me on my phone when you're having a problem. And then you get 2 free tickets to my annual live 2-day event. Usually that will happen in October. And then you get the membership to my new Facebook group that we can support each other. I will actually go on there and actually talk to you. How many times you could go to a group and the person who created it never gets on. We're going to maximize this at 15 people in the group, and then you don't have to show your video if you don't want to, like here, or if you want to, that's fine. So if you're not fully satisfied, like I told you, get a full money-back guarantee after the 2nd week. And that's $24.97, but we're not doing that because, again, what's happening, people are losing their jobs or people are feeling strained in their business. So I'm offering for $14.97. I'm giving you $1,000 off if you pay it up front. If not, then you can do 3 payments of $667, and I'm giving an extra $500 off on that. So I'll give you the link. That's we'll put it in the chat, and actually I'll put it here for that. You look at that, you can go to dragrios.com webinar offers. And by going there, you can get the $47 online course, or if you want to work with me one-on-one in a group, that's great too. If you want to work one-on-one with me and you don't want to do a group, just text me at Dr. A. I mean, she's not text me. Email me at dra@dragrios.com. And I'll put that in the chat for you so you guys can see all that. Okay? So there was another question here, is that I find that it's the sabotaging trait is like the Myers-Briggs training. It's somewhat, but it's more to the point. You don't have to go through all these different things. I found that there are actually only 6 personality stress sequences. And by just using the antidote, you can immediately start seeing shifts without really going to a major training. Okay? Let me put that webinar, let me see here. Okay. I had that all written, but I'll do that. So let's ask any more questions, and we can continue going with some more information if you like. That would do it. So that's the link, and then my email address is dra@dragrios.com. If I can spell my name, it'll be good. Question? Questions? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. You weren't saying anything. I thought maybe I hit something wrong.
Questions.
So there's also things you can do. By the way, I'm also getting married next month, and they just closed the Outer Banks. So we don't know we're going to get married. So that could be a major stress. It is with my fiance, but I'm looking and going, it's all going to work out. I'm not even getting stressed about it. I'm just going week by week. You got to go day by day because you have to realize this. You have past, present, and future. When people are in the past or when they're in the future, your past and future now becomes your present. Okay? So when you focus on that, especially in the future, whatever's going on, you are now allowing that future to be your present, which is all the anxiety, which is now all based on an illusion. And it's really hard to stay in the present. I know that. Sometimes I'll go back and forth and I have to talk myself out of it as much as I used to talk myself into it. But by you really focusing on that allows you to really understand that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
We have another question. Can I watch this again? Yes, we're gonna record this. This has been recorded, and we're going to be putting this out on the webinar, out on the on our email addresses on Facebook, and you can get the recording. And you also can share this with other people if you like. Okay. Another thing that I wanted to kind of talk about is that people say, I want to overcome fear. I want to destroy fear. I want to get it out of my life. And I'm saying you will never get fear out of your life because it's just like the back of your hand. Trust, and trust, when you have trust, you have no fear. When you have fear, you have no trust. So if I want to get rid of fear, it's like me trying to get rid of the back of my hand. If I get rid of my back of my hand, I get rid of everything. You cannot. It's just shifting it. And when you shift it, it's that easy. And by using the antidote, it's really that here's fear, but when you use your antidote, you have no fear because you no longer go down the road of desperation, you go down the road of inspiration. And one of the techniques you can use, I have this in my book, it's called the time management technique. People are realizing how much time they're wasting by sitting around looking, and a lot of times people don't want to really hear their minds, that's why they're always busy, that they're really looking out and want to go, you know what, I should have more time with my family. I should have this and that should have. You know, we call it the 11th commandment, never don't thou shalt should on thyself, right? So the time management technique, what you can actually do is you look at all your roles. So for me, I am a consultant, I am a fiance, I am a dad, I am an uncle, I do this and this. Let's say I do 10 different things. Let's say I'm a chairman like I used to be on a particular group. Now, when I look at this, you write down next to each of the roles how many hours you spend per week at each role. Now, you got to include yourself in there too. You have to include in there saying, oh, you know what? How much time do I take for myself? Am I exercising? Am I meditating? So by you putting those many hours, you look at it and go, you know what? I don't want to be a chairman anymore. I'm done with that. So if I get rid of it, wow, I gained 5 more hours. Well, what do I do with that 5 hours? I always say, look at yourself first, add that to yourself, and then maybe you want to spend some more time as an uncle or as a dad or whatever. And now you add those time, and now you can really start seeing where your time goes instead of wasting it that way. So it's a really, really powerful technique that you can use to really help yourself with that end of it. Okay?
You know, something that I hear very, very often from my clients when I talk to them over the phone is that, you know, they're normally women in their 40s and 50s. And they tell you for the last 20, 25 years, all I've been is a mother and a wife and working and giving everything. And now it's time for me. I want to do something for me. Why is it that we women, we actually put ourselves into that position that we forget about ourselves for 20 years?
Well, some women do, maybe the majority, but there are women that don't. And basically what I found, and when I work with clients, is 2 reasons. One, it's their sabotaging trait all the time. And number 2, it's also how they were brought up. So a lot of times, depending on their sabotaging trait, let's say the supplier, we'll go back to the supplier, the overly giving part. If they don't do that, then they're a horrible mother because their mother and their grandmother, even though they may not be alive, they're going to be really disappointed to me. I'm going to be a horrible mother. I'm going to be a horrible wife because that was the culture that they brought with them, along with the sabotaging trait for what they need. See, the sabotaging trait's there to evolve you, not, okay? Because if everything, see, I wish I said this earlier. If you think you're here on earth for everything to go well in your life, that nothing should go wrong, then you have no idea why you're here. You're here for the experience. I'm going to say that again. You're here for the experience, because if everything went so well, oh yeah, I got another Mercedes, yeah, I got another $1 million came in the bank, and you never had to work for it and it just came to you, we would be having a webinar on how bored you are.
Yeah.
And the sabotaging trait's there to evolve you. It actually brings things into your life in order to make you more, helps you to understand that it's giving you the opportunity to evolve. So right now, everybody in this world has an opportunity to evolve or dissolve. You evolve or you dissolve. That's it. Remember, you grow, you protect, you give, you take. So by actually looking at that, you can really see it. So going back to the original meaning of your original question, it's really that they're overly giving because they're really protecting themselves of their integrity of this is what a mom should be. And then once everybody leaves, and I don't know with the woman who had that first question, so maybe she has no husband, maybe her kids are grown, now she's by herself. What happens is that now she has to get a new identity. And it's hard, but the identity is really creating what you really want. What a great opportunity. So now you can look at it. I don't have any husband on my butt. I have no kids that way. What an opportunity to really work on me. And that's scary to a lot of people. It's scary. And what happens is they go into that negative mode and they wonder why things happen to them. That's why it happens to those type of people. What are you vibrating? I remember, I don't know if you know Abraham Hicks, right? They're very big on YouTube and whatever. They brought in the law of attraction. And he said, God doesn't speak English. He speaks vibration. That's really powerful because I don't care what you tell me. Even when I was your consultant, I see what you're vibrating. What are you doing? How are you acting? How are you thinking? That's what's really good. You can go, oh, I tried that positive thinking garbage and it didn't work. Yeah, because you thought for about 1 minute positive, and the next 23 hours and 59 minutes, you were stressing out and thinking of my future, of how horrible it is, which is now my present. So therefore, this is my present. So therefore, I have to bring the people, things, and events to reinforce my new present. That's just how it works. And I fought that, and I didn't believe it in the beginning, and I fully 100% believe it because I see it every day. And that's just how it works. And sometimes it's just mind-blowing to people. And I think back when, how I used to think, and I go, yeah, it was. It was scary, but you know what? Now, just like, I have no regret. I went through a lot of stuff, and, I went through a lot of stuff, and I didn't even give you 3/4 of what I went through. I have no regret because everything that happened to me is a cause of who I am. And if I never went through that, I would not be who I am and helping the people that I've helped, writing my book and having the online courses and doing this with those beautiful people online and all this. It wouldn't happen. So the question is your regret is just focusing on what you didn't want to be. Real quick, I'm going to a tangent and I apologize, but there was on Facebook, I saw one of my old patients. She turned 30 and she's like, I'm really upset. I'm turning 30. I wonder why I'm really upset. And I said, basically because you had goals that you thought you were going to be at 30 that you didn't reach. And that's why you're upset. And she was just like, wow, you're absolutely right. So if you're 30, 40, 50 of those 30s and 40s.
Oh, 50, yeah.
Oh, I can't. I'm 59. 60 is going to be just another year. But I'm not going to go, 60. I really should have been here. And I'm really upset. No, I'm here. And I'm here, and only here is where I can change my future.
Right. Oh, I have so much to tell you about being 50. I mean, I'm loving it. But 10 years ago, or 12 years ago, when I was about to turn 40, I felt my life was over. Why? Because my life was not where I thought it would be or should be by the time I was 40, not even here. And boudoir photography is really what changed my life. And it started by self-perception. And I think, as you said, I was sabotaging myself. And it's very, very different. Do you have any other questions? I don't think I can see the questions from, there it is, the Q&A.
Yeah, no, not right now. If any more questions,
so
there's one more thing you can do. You can do EFT, which is emotional freedom technique. There's tapping. You can go on to YouTube. There's a lot of free stuff there, or books you can read on that helps to eliminate fears for you. It's really great. And for those of you who want to start an exercise program, don't want to start, remember years ago, I was so out of shape that I decided to do one. I got out of bed and I did one push-up and I took a shower and I went to work. Next day I got up, did one push-up, barely, went to whatever. Then after a while I did 2 push-ups, and then I bought a thing, I did 1 pull-up. And after a while, I started to work out and started seeing a change by just doing that. And I was able to get myself back into the gym. So just start out slowly. We live in a huge information age. You can get anything on YouTube. So look at it and get yourself into a routine, especially if you're a director saboteur. You don't like to even be told, you don't even like yourself telling you what you want to do. So try to get into a routine. When I work with Jack Canfield, who's the author of Chicken Soup for the Soul, I go and work with some of his clients, and he read his book about billionaires, and this guy went out and actually interviewed billionaires, and they all had one thing in common. They all got up between 4:30 and 5. Yeah. They meditated, and then they worked out, and then went to work. So I decided the next day I'm going to do this. So I went, and I got up at 5. I started meditating, working out. By 6th day, being a director saboteur, I'm like, I really want to do this. Am I out of my mind? And then I said, no. I said to myself, I would do this. I need to stay in integrity with myself. Yeah. My kids, when they're young, would just say, yeah, but no one would know. I said, yeah, but I'll know. Mm-hmm. And when you get to the point where you can be on you and keep yourself accountable, saying, I need to do this because I said to do it, then I'm not going to lie to myself. And that's one of the major techniques you can use to fully change your life. It's being in integrity with yourself.
And I think that the hardest part is to actually make a choice, because once you make a choice, you don't go back, and you know that you're going to commit to yourself. And that's why most people just don't make the choice.
Right. And that's their sabotaging trait protecting them.
Yeah.
And I see it all the time.
It's a commitment for life.
Yeah. And it's scary.
Yeah. That's why, a diet, people commit to diets because it's just 15 days. But a lifetime of changing how you feed your body, and never touch ice cream ever again because you're lactose intolerant or certain things, or quitting drinking or smoking. I can quit for a weekend because, like here in Mexico, we have mandas, which is you promise a saint you're going to do a sacrifice in exchange for a miracle or a favor. Mm-hmm. And everybody does them. Why? Because it's just 10 days or a month of not drinking to get a business going, or, your mother get out of the hospital. I promise I won't drink for a month. Right. Everybody does it because it's easy. It ends. It has an end.
Right.
Just to commit for a lifetime to never drink again, that's major, because that you can go back.
And I like to leave everybody, I guess, it's getting to no one knows other questions. I'm going to leave you with one really great sentence. You want to write this down. If you're going to do something, whether or not it's going to be, you want to quit your cigarettes or drinking or your eating and all that, that when you eat something bad or whatever, especially if you have an autoimmune disease and all that, you're going to be hurting. But at that moment in time, not doing it is more painful than not doing it. Having that cigarette, not having that cigarette is going to be more painful than that. So you say to yourself, is this worth destroying my body over? Is this worth destroying my body over? Is this pizza, what I'm about to eat, when I know for 3 days I'm going to be hurting, is it worth destroying my body over? And sometimes, yes. Okay, that's why the girl cuts herself. It's more painful to deal with the situation than to cut herself. Okay, but you're still doing it with your drinking and all that. So when people used to come into me when I was working with autoimmune patients, they would go, "You're going to kill me. I had this." And I said, "How'd you feel?" "I feel horrible for 3 days, couldn't get out of bed." I said, "Why do you need me to beat you up more?" "I'm not." I said, "I'm glad you had the pizza. I just want to know why you had the pizza. What was the trigger that made you have the pizza?" Okay, so 3 reasons. 1, you had a major stress, so you went for it. What did you eat prior? Maybe you had ice cream and then you want the pizza, which was creating a problem. Or 3, what did you do physically? If you ask those 3 questions, you may able to just start realizing the trigger that's causing you to go for that. And by actually dealing with that trigger, that's when you can start no longer calling it a diet, but actually a lifestyle, because it's really numbing you. Do I really want to numb myself? That's another question. Why do I want to numb myself? The pizza's a numbing. Why do I want to numb myself? Because I just had a bad fight with my wife or my husband. Okay, why am I allowing them to cause more detrimental to me? That's my comfort food. Let's do something different. So I hope this has helped people. I hope this was very beneficial for your time, and I know that your time is very valuable to us. And thank you for joining us. And I really want to make sure that they have the value. So thank you. And I thank you for bringing me on Argentina and expressing to somebody things and giving them some techniques and opportunities so that they can go further and go get past this crisis and the other crises that are going to come.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time. Your time is as valuable as our time. So thank you so much for giving this time, your knowledge and the opportunity to keep working with you. And we're definitely going to be posting this video. I'm going to send an email blast. I'm going to post it in YouTube and also in my website. So look for it.
We're going to do the same thing as well. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great one. Be safe, be smart, and you're already intelligent. Just hang in there. This soon shall pass. Sorry for that cliche, but it really is true. Just focus on you and stay present as much as you can. And what is the opportunity? I cannot wait. And I've been saying this too. I cannot wait to see what gift this is giving me, because it's there, as well as a smack in the head. Have a great one, guys. All right, bye-bye.